National Guard shooting. This is not okay. I'm so sick of idiots picking up guns and causing mayhem. This 29-year-old with 5 kids in political asylum has this great big idea to shoot National Guard in the country that has granted him asylum, thereby risking the lives of his children and family who now face the real possibility of being sent back to Afghanistan. It is stupid, destructive, and emblematic of a violent world that does not prioritize community building, civic discipline, and responsibility. And now the families of the critically injured guardsmen have their lives turned upside down right before Thanksgiving and the beginning of the holiday Christmas season. This is wrong. Something is really wrong with our society, and not just American society. I'm talking about the human family, the human psyche. Resorting to violence is often a subconscious impulse that people versed in civility and basic law and order can easily overcome. But those who are detached from or have been deprived of society, civilian life, and a peaceful community tend to give in to the impulse and violence in the absence of an inner sense of civility and peace. The impulse turns into an obsessive compulsion, and that disorder destroys lives. The suspected gunman in this particular issue is a 29-year-old man from Afghanistan who got asylum. His name is Rahmanullah Lakhanwal. Donald Trump says, if they don't love our country, we don't want them. He said, adding to that shooting, that was a crime against our entire nation. And I don't disagree with him saying that it's a crime against our entire nation. And the fact that this 29-year-old asylum seeker was brought to the United States after the removal of American forces from Afghanistan, and this person got asylum because this person and their family helped the American government or in some way helped the democratic government of Afghanistan when Taliban was expelled from the governance of Afghanistan. And now they are at risk of being sent back. The Trump administration quickly ordered 500 more National Guard members to Washington. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Trump asked him to send the troops. How is this going to help? How is it going to help that you have over 2,000 National Guard troops in the city who are now clearly in danger of being attacked? We have this evidence now. You're going to add more National Guard troops, expose them to more danger? Donald Trump issued an emergency order in August that federalized the local police force and sent national troops from 8 states to the District of Columbia. The order expired a month later, but the troops remained. Last week, a federal judge ordered an end to the deployment, but she also put an order on hold for 21 days to allow the administration to either remove the troops or appeal. And here's where, the court and the judiciary's slow movement really has an impact on people's lives. Why are 500 more National Guardsmen being exposed to this environment when the troops need to be removed and regular law enforcement needs to take charge of Washington, D.C., and a court has ruled on it? My heart goes out to the National Guard victims. I'm grateful for their service, but they did not need to be there. The situation would have been an impossibility had Donald not deployed thousands of guards to D.C. But it is hard to tell whether the suspect would or would not have shot other law enforcement because we don't know what his motive is yet. But what we do know is that having guns indiscriminately available to Americans and people living in America legally exposes Americans and our soldiers and our peacekeepers to danger. Something that we have to think about as a society. We also have to think about how to integrate people into our society so they don't feel this compulsion to hurt us when we are granting them asylum. And this gives the far right the tools they need to say this is why we don't want immigration in the United States. When this is an isolated event by one Afghani asylum seeker, and it is now going to jeopardize all of the immigration, because Donald Trump has ordered the stop of processing of all immigrant requests related to Afghan nationals. So everybody who is seeking from Afghanistan asylum, political asylum, have now been indefinitely stopped because of this man's action. How irresponsible of him, how short-sighted of him to come to a place that gives him refuge and then attack the guardsmen, the National Guardsmen of that same country. It is not what we want from immigrants coming to our country. They clearly do not have an appreciation for law and order. But it's not restricted to people who are asylum seekers or who are immigrants. Remember that. A vast majority of these incidents happen with American citizens being the perpetrators instead of foreign nationals. That is the truth. And don't let that get diluted by this acute incident of an isolated event of an asylum seeker going out and shooting our protectors. It is not right. That person must be held to account. But at some point, the asylum applications of other Afghan nationals should be carefully restarted and properly vetted. Because while this particular family and this particular man came to the United States through Biden's asylum program, his asylum renewal was renewed in April of 2025 by the Trump administration. Just a few months ago, just 8 months ago, the Trump administration renewed their asylum status. So it's not like the Trump regime was pointing this person out as being somebody who was to be removed. They were given an extension of their asylum. And despite that, this man goes and does this. So the fault we're not going to find, and what we don't need to do right now is blame Biden or blame Trump first for giving asylum, then for extending asylum, but focus on the problem of having guns indiscriminately on American streets, as well as the responsibility of our government and of community leaders to integrate people and make them understand what civil society is like. And despite the fact that we have the right to bear arms in the United States, that right is not there to harm others. It is there to defend ourselves. With that said, take care of each other, send prayers and your good energy to the National Guardsmen and their families who are being affected at this time, and pray for a equitable outcome when it comes to immigrants and asylum seekers whose papers have been stalled because of this incident. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.